You're watching the show that puts Mid-Michigan news in focus. This is Focal Point.
We'll tell you about a relatively new app called Yik Yak and why the Michigan State University Police are monitoring it so closely. Coming up next on Focal Point.
Tonight on Focal Point, the Greater Lansing area point-in-time count took place in late January. Tonight we take a closer look at some of the programs and people helping those in need.
The roads around Michigan are in shambles. We'll tell you how a new tax proposal could pave the way to fix them. Focal Point starts now.
Good evening, I'm Miguel Martinez Valle.
And I'm Amanda Chadnicki. Welcome to Focal Point. A new smartphone app has caused some havoc on the Michigan State University campus. Yik Yak is a way to post comments anonymously, giving people free rein to say what they want. But several recent incidents have urged the MSU police to monitor the app more closely. First there was Facebook, then Twitter, Snapchat, and now there's Yik Yak. This new app allows people to post their thoughts, called Yaks, anonymously.
Some pros are that people are saying their honest opinion because they won't be judged for their name attached to a specific message.
Happy Valentine's Day. All I want is Chipotle and to celebrate being single.
It also allows users like senior Victoria Myers to view other people's Yaks within a 10-mile radius.
It's cool because if you're in a college town, if you're in like a highly populated city, it's, you know, people like around you, so you know what's going on around you.
The app is supposed to be used for fun, but MSU Police Detective Lieutenant Valerie O'Brien says the anonymous feature has caused some students to lash out.
And so if you put something out there just thinking that it's a joke or you're not really serious or you're having a bad day, it doesn't matter what your intent is, right? It's how people perceive that.
One case involving the posting of an inappropriate video. Another involving a possible shooting.
The subject had posted on Yik Yak that he was going to, and it had the symbol of a gun, for shoot a school.
Freshman Matthew Mullen was charged with terrorism for the shooting threat. Due to people using Yik Yak to impose threats upon the Michigan State University community, MSU police feel the need to monitor the app more closely.
We hired an intelligence and crime analyst, and that is part of her job, is to proactively look and see if we can be preventative on our own.
O'Brien says they search for keywords.
Shooting, bomb, gun.
Words that tend to be used within a threat message.
As a student, it makes me feel good that I'm paying all this money to go here and that I want to have a safe learning environment and that they are taking the time to make sure that I can learn and be in a safe place.
Although the MSU police are taking preventative measures, O'Brien says she still encourages students to contact them if they see something suspicious. East Lansing police are looking for 2 suspects in the late-night shooting of 2 Lansing men last week inside the Grove Street parking ramp near MSU's campus. Police dispatch reports say a woman called 911 after hearing 15 gunshots around midnight last week Thursday near the bar scene on Albert Avenue. When they arrived, police found 2 men had been shot. What appears to be inside near this car, you can see the rear passenger window is broken. Both were taken to Sparrow Hospital, where one 22-year-old victim died and the other 21-year-old victim suffered non-life-threatening injuries. Police are looking for 2 suspects in the shooting, reported leaving the parking garage in a red 4-door car. MSU students were notified of the shooting by text after 1 a.m.
And the middle of winter brings Michigan freezing temperatures, and volunteers in the Greater Lansing area braved the cold late last month to count the number of people living on the streets and help them find shelters. The count helps determine funding for these programs and shelters, but they can't rely on just government funds. Volunteers play a big role too. Warm embraces are felt all around as people leave the cold behind for a few hours of shelter and a hot meal. This Sunday breakfast was prepared fully by volunteers who gave up a weekend sleeping in to help out those in need.
I walked here from our house that's about 10 minutes away at 8 o'clock.
Kata Rothorn is a first-time volunteer at Advent House. She's doing it as a part of her church's mentorship program.
I was part of the fruit and toast team, and we rearranged the fruit in 6 different platters and buttered the toast.
As breakfast approached, people started lining up. Families first, followed by single adults.
And I didn't have a main job as serving, so I mostly run back and forth serving the food. It was kind of chaotic.
Advent House, a weekend day shelter in Lansing, served over 34,000 meals last year alone to both homeless and non-homeless people in need of food. They also provide literacy classes and job training. While this shelter in particular doesn't house people overnight, others in the Lansing area offer the opportunity for a bed to those that don't have one.
At this point, I'd say every shelter that houses single adults has some outreach to the community to let people know that they're there, make sure that they know they can come in from the cold.
In 2013, there were nearly 5,000 people counted as homeless in the Lansing area. More than half were families and children who use assistance programs such as those provided by Advent House.
Homelessness is generally not anyone's fault. You know, it's usually a series of circumstances that culminate in the person losing resources.
The weekend day shelters and its volunteers such as CADA provide the Lansing homeless an opportunity to get back on their feet, as well as temporary relief from the cold and, at the very least, a warm meal to start their day. The numbers for this year's count have not been released yet, but last year's count showed 429 people living on the streets around this time, 89 of which were children. And local residents may have to find a new place to buy electronics after a national chain says goodbye. Radio Shack stores in Lansing, Okemos, and Delta Township are among 52 in Michigan and 1,700 nationwide that are slated for closing after filing for bankruptcy protection last week. The nearly century-old retailer, which traces its origins to a leather shoe parts shop in Texas, is considered by some a pioneer in the electronics industry and even spent millions to advertise at last year's Super Bowl. However, over the last 2 decades, the company failed at finding focus and financial footing and lost business to competitors such as Best Buy and Amazon. While there is no word on how soon the stores will close, the retailer is expected to offer liquidation sales to clear out remaining inventory.
Michigan roads are in need of repairs, and state legislators have finally struck a deal to get more funding. Now it is up to the public to decide on a proposal ballot. Tyler Clifford has that story.
Mechanics at this Lansing auto shop have gotten a lot of business with tire, rim, and front end repairs. And it seems all roads in Lansing lead there because local roads are that bad. Danny Abar manages the store on Saginaw Highway near US 127 and says potholes are causing a lot of frustration for customers.
The average ticket for front end repairs typically will be right around anywhere between $300 and $600 depending on the severity of the problem.
A December study by research group TRIP says that only 1/3 of state-maintained roads are in good condition. And because of this, Michigan drivers are paying an extra $3.8 billion annually on road-related repairs. State legislators decided on a plan to address the issue.
Governor Rick Snyder signed a bill package that will send Proposal 1 on to voters on May 5th. Voters will decide whether to raise the sales tax from 6 to 7% in order to raise over $1 billion extra for road funding.
Customers would see a slight raise at the retail register. A shirt that cost $29.99 would cost 31 cents more with the sales tax increase.
And I have done some coffee shop polling, and many people who are either low income or seniors have told me they favor this.
But the increase also includes millions more for schools, local governments, and in tax breaks for the poor, among other changes. The sales tax on gas would also be replaced with a wholesale tax on motor fuel. State Director of Americans for Prosperity, Scott Hagerstrom, says more funding is needed for roads, but a tax increase is not the answer.
We have one of the highest taxes on gasoline in the country, but over 40% of it doesn't go to fix roads.
But Senator Jones says it's difficult to see a $1 billion increase without a tax increase somewhere.
That's what the governor says he needs. And in Michigan, we don't tax food and we don't tax medicine.
Voters will decide whether to raise the sales tax on the Proposal 1 ballot on May 5th.
It'll force every person, every family here in the state to rearrange their spending.
Residents have until April 6th to register to cast a vote in the special election. For Focal Point, I'm Tyler Clifford.
A yes vote on the proposal would automatically pass 10 other bills tied to the road funding bill. Low gas prices has led to an increase in sales for the U.S. auto industry, with over half of its sales comprised pickup comprised in pickups, trucks, sport utility vehicles. Focal Point's Ariel Rembert shows us how gas prices often dictate the types of cars people buy.
Driving in Michigan can be tough without four-wheel drive. And with gas prices at $2 a gallon, people are hungry for bigger cars.
I just purchased a 2014 Ford F-150. I was lucky when I purchased it. The gas prices were down. They're coming up now. But I'm still happy because at first to fill this up it was $100 and now it's like $50.
As gas prices boost customer confidence, auto sales in January alone have grown over 19% in trucks and SUVs.
So people are buying higher mileage cars. Now, in the release data of yesterday, the automakers here in Michigan have sold more trucks than before.
Executive Director of Associated Petroleum Industries, John Griffin, suggests Michigan automakers are benefiting greatly due to cheap gas. But consumers may need to think twice before buying gas guzzlers.
Because gas prices have historically gone up and down, and the low oil prices, which are causing the low gas prices, are causing production companies, the drillers, people I represent, to curtail more production till the supply-demand imbalance straightens out. And generally when that happens, in this situation, prices would go up.
All the sales are generating jobs at auto plants and are producing some of the highest capacity employment rates in the history of the industry. For Focal Point, I'm Ariel Rembert.
Analysts predict final sales for the year to exceed $17 million, a figure that has not been seen in over a decade.
What started as an outbreak at Disneyland has many people across the country now asking the question, to vaccinate or not?
Plus, low temperatures and lots of snow this winter canceled class at Michigan State. We're taking a look at how those decisions are made.
When do we give up? When do we just close our eyes and say, that's it? This water's too polluted. This disease too far along. To a Spartan, the answer is simple. Never. Because Michigan State was founded on the belief that our purpose is to make the world a better place. And when you're open to unconventional thinking, value people's differences, and are willing to forge true partnerships, then and only then can you solve the world's toughest problems. Like renewable energy, clean water, and Parkinson's disease. Because we know our true triumph lies in the impact we make on the world around us. And after all, if we don't do it, who will? Spartans will.
After an outbreak of the measles occurred in California, people nationwide discussed the importance of vaccinations. Focal Point's April Jones breaks down the pros and the cons.
Every year, thousands of families nationwide make the decision on whether or not to get their child vaccinated.
People sort of underestimate the importance of getting the vaccines.
James Burlett, a medical doctor at McLean Ready Care, says vaccinations are known to be one of the main components of keeping communities healthy.
If you were to go back 2 or 3 generations and talk to your grandparents or your great-grandparents, they would line up down the street to get the vaccines.
But as fewer outbreaks of diseases occurred,
There are pockets in our communities where folks do not vaccinate, and that's our concern.
Terry Adams, who works for the Michigan Community Department of Health, says she fears for those who are not vaccinated. Last December, the measles resurfaced after an outbreak at Disneyland led to various cases nationwide. Measles is a highly contagious viral infection, and if contracted, can be fatal.
You can get encephalitis, which is a swelling of the lining of the brain, and that's what people generally will die from.
Now with a viral disease such as measles or shingles, you can get the disease without physically coming into contact with someone who has it. Now with an everyday public item such as the shopping cart, measles can live on the surface for up to 5 days. While it may seem obvious to get the vaccinations, some who aren't too fond of them, such as Luan Abram, thinks practices such as meditation can heal your body.
We can really heal ourselves, holistically, eating healthy, all natural. But of course, also just meditating.
At 14 years old, Abram moved here from Eastern Africa and decided against vaccinations due to fear.
In the late 90s, there was a study that was published in a pretty high-powered medical journal called The Lancet, out of England. And in that study, they linked autism to the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine.
Caused a lot of fear and concern in Europe and in the United States, and people stopped vaccinating because of that.
And while the study was debunked, the choice to get vaccinated remains a choice that many will not take.
We always hoped we have a high enough rate of vaccination among the population to give us what we call herd immunity.
A concept where at least 90% of the community is vaccinated to reduce the outbreaks amongst those who are not. For Focal Point, I'm April Jones.
Adults who never received the measles vaccine as a child but would like to get it now should visit their doctor for more information. Nearly a foot of snow may be inconvenient, but MSU is well prepared. Classes were suspended for a few hours, and we have the reason why.
And to many, hooking up can have different meanings. One MSU professor decided to spell it all out in her new book. April Jones is here with those stories and more in our on-campus report. April?
Miguel, Amanda. The governor declared a state of emergency on February 1st as the year's largest snowstorm rolled through. Focal Point's Daniela Bruce has more on how the storm impacted campus and why it took so long to delay the start of classes.
February came in with a bang as the state was hit with a big winter storm. Enough snow to cause MSU to suspend classes, which is not an easy decision for MSU officials to make.
A lot goes into making the decision to suspend classes or go to critical functions on campus.
MSU spokesperson Kent Casella says since campus covers such a large area, it can be a challenge to make campus ready for faculty, staff, and students.
If we get a lot of snow very quickly, it's hard for us to get campus clear in time.
Casella said the relationship between communications and MSU's snow removal crew is critical in making a decision to suspend classes.
At the first sign of snow, we called in our salt trucks and we started scraping the roads.
Snow removal supervisor Matt Bailey said his crew was ready for the snow.
We had 60 people in on staff running every walk, every sidewalk, every roadway, every parking lot to try and keep it open and make sure that it stayed open.
Now, this may have left some people wondering, if faculty was fully aware of the storm, why did it take so long to suspend classes?
We've got a direct line to our police department here from the National Weather Service. So it's looking to see what's the predicted weather and what the impact of that's going to be on MSU.
Casella said this is extremely important for operations to run smoothly at MSU.
What we don't want to do, because of the huge impact, just because of the size of MSU, we don't want to make that call too early too many times and then the storm doesn't happen.
But both Casella and Bailey said their primary goal is to help MSU students, staff, and faculty get to campus safely. For Focal Point, I'm Daniela Bruce.
Casella encouraged students and staff to sign up for MSU alerts to speed up the notification process. With hopes of keeping college students in Michigan after graduation, State Senator Curtis Hertel Jr. has drafted new legislation to give credits to those who stay. Hertel hosted about a dozen students and community members at a roundtable event to discuss Senate Bill 57, a bill targeted at recent graduates to reduce the burden of higher education debt. Michigan graduates who choose to live and work in the state will be able to write up to half of their student loans and Michigan taxes for up to 5 years, saving the average student nearly $2,100 a year.
We invest a lot in these kids to go to Michigan universities, but then they move out of state. We need to keep these talented kids here. It'll help create jobs here, help them be part of our economy.
A similar bill moved through the state Senate during the last term, but was stalled in the House. The bill is expected to have a hearing in the next few weeks. Spartans gathered around the MSU Rock earlier this week to honor 2 students who died recently. Carolina Alowski and Mara Branda, both sophomores at Michigan State, died in a car accident on January 2nd heading northbound on US 131. The event drew in a crowd of students at the Rock to paint lights, candles, and share memories of the young women who lost their lives. This memorial was originally scheduled for February 2nd, but was postponed due to the snow. The rock painting was organized by the roommates, the MSU Tower Guard, and the Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority, but was open to the public. Hooking up, a phrase with multiple meanings, is often used by college students. Inspired by her own students, Stephanie Amata, an MSU assistant professor of writing, rhetoric, and American cultures, wrote an ebook on college hookup culture in hopes to clear some of the confusion. She says the inspiration came from class discussions, which revealed concerns and pressures her students felt about hooking up. Amada's book, Hooking Up, A Sexy Encounter with a Choice, covers what hooking up is, what to do if you want to hook up, and what to do if you don't. There's also a chapter on the more serious topic, acquaintance rape, where Amada reveals on how she was sexually assaulted in college.
It was definitely a scary thing to write that down. And then it was also a really weird experience for me to know that students had read this.
Amada is trying to get the message out to others by holding virtual workshops for college students across the country. Her ebook is now available on Kindle. The Detroit Auto Show isn't all about the big three automakers, as this year's show featured a bit of Spartan flair. MSU engineering students, designers built their solar power car, displaying it at the annual International Show. The car, named Leonidas, will be the first car on display since the program was reintroduced in 2007. The program gives students a hands-on experience as engineers. Electrical manager Ian Gosh says many technical advances make the car very different from any other car the students have ever built.
Whereas this time, we've now used a technique called resin infusion to make a carbon fiber body of our car. So we actually used CNC machines to mill out molds and make plugs, and then make the actual body of the car to make it much lighter and much stronger than it could ever have been before with our older techniques.
The solar car team is back to the drawing board, already in process of producing another, more advanced solar car. And that's what's happening on campus. I'm April Jones.
Thank you for that, April. And it may be cold outside, but the locker rooms are warm inside Spartan Stadium. It's signing day and plenty of athletes are ready to join the Spartan ranks.
Plus, MSU basketball has had a rough season so far. We'll tell you all the ups and downs next in sports.
When do we give up? When do we just close our eyes and say, that's it? This water's too polluted. This disease too far along. To a Spartan, the answer is simple. Never. Because Michigan State was founded on the belief that our purpose is to make the world a better place. And when you're open to unconventional thinking, value people's differences, and are willing to forge true partnerships, then and only then can we solve the world's toughest problems. Like renewable energy, clean water, and Parkinson's disease. Because we know our true triumph lies in the impact we make on the world around us. And after all, if we don't do it, who will? Spartans will.
Michigan State had another successful signing day. The 2015 class of recruits ranks among the best in the country, with ESPN ranking the Spartans number 29 overall. In addition to 2 late commits, all 18 players that verbally committed sent in their letters. Coach D'Antonio is confident that this class will do great things.
I don't know if it'll be our best, but you certainly have a great feel for them in terms of the type of people that they are. They are outstanding players. I think, I hear the term ESPN or whatever, top 300 thrown around a lot. We have quite a few guys in that top 300. We have just as many who will go on and do tremendous things here at Michigan State.
Even with such an outstanding class, Coach D'Antonio said his top 2 recruits are 2 of his returning seniors. Along with starting quarterback Connor Cook, defensive end Shalik Calhoun will be returning to MSU for his senior season, hopeful for a national championship run next year. Calhoun recorded a career-high 39 tackles in his junior season and tied the team high of 12.5 tackles for loss. He also had 8 sacks. For the second consecutive season, Calhoun was given the honors of second-team Walter Camp All-American and honorable mention All-American by Sports Illustrated. On top of that, Calhoun was rated number 20 in overall prospect on ESPN NFL Draft Insider, but chose to play his senior year for many reasons.
I'll be the first in my immediate family to get a degree, so I think that was very special. That'd be a very special moment, not only for me, but my parents and the rest of my family. As for, having another opportunity to play on this team and for another year, I love playing alongside these guys. We built a lot of great memories. Calhoun
also said he is ready to take on the leadership role that is expected of him next season. The men's basketball team got their 16th win of the season last Tuesday when they played the Northwestern Wildcats in Evanston, Illinois. Point guard Travis Trice led the team with 16 points, while Spartan forward Brandon Dawson had 10 rebounds. 9 Spartans combined for a total of 68 points, outscoring the Wildcats by 24. And with the good comes the bad. The Spartans fell to Illinois last Saturday, 59-54 at the Breslin. MSU pulled ahead early in the first half, but couldn't seem to keep that lead. They combined for a field goal percentage of 38.9% and went just 7 for 18 from the free throw line. Denzel Valentine was the team's top scorer with 16 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. The Spartans will face the Ohio State Buckeyes on Saturday at the Breslin Center.
A couple guys that aren't very good free throw shooters. I wasn't the guys that missed them. And it's just unexcusable. You know, everybody's got a job to do, as famous Bill Belichick says, and you got to do your job. So now I got to do my job.
Working our way over to the Windy City, the Spartans fell to the Wolverines 4-1 last weekend in the delayed Hockey City Classic in Chicago, putting the Spartans to 4th in the Big Ten. Michigan scored with just under 2 minutes in the first period, followed up with 2 more goals in the second, and they sealed the deal with 1 in the third. MSU's Matt DeBlau put up the Spartans' only goal early in the third. Goalie Jake Hildebrand finished the game with 33 saves. Michigan State women's basketball put up a fierce battle on the road against Minnesota earlier this week. Sophomore Ariel Powers commanded the game with 31 points and 9 rebounds against the Golden Gophers. But Minnesota broke away in the second half, taking a 16-point lead. The Spartans cut the deficit to 7, but couldn't recover. The Spartans lost 86-79. Powers said she was proud of the way her teammates stepped up to the plate.
They came out and they were on fire. They gave us everything we needed to start because last game against Michigan, you know, we couldn't really hit shots. So it was good to see Lexi kind of come out of her shell. And they weren't playing her on defense, even after she hit a couple threes. So she just kept lighting it up, and we gave her the green light. We didn't mind her shooting at all.
The Spartans grabbed another road win against Penn State this Wednesday, pushing them to 12-13 overall with a 4-10 record in the Big Ten. MSU's new student organization, On the Rise Entertainment, sponsored the 2nd annual Hoops for Hope celebrity basketball game to raise money for people in need and abused children in the greater Lansing area. Popular TV shows and sitcoms such as BET's The Game visited Michigan State's IM West Gymnasium to play in a charity basketball game this past Saturday. MSU students eagerly filled the gym to see dance performances and Greek steps. Robert Riley, who plays a star point guard on VH1's television series Hit the Floor, says he loves the people in Michigan and is excited to support the Lansing community.
Well, hopefully it just puts a spotlight on giving back to the community and showing that even if you have once you have a platform, however large or small that platform is, that you should do things that are relatively important with it. I mean, take an example from these guys.
The MSU Greeks took this one home to win the game 55-49, which leaves the rivalry at 1 apiece. And that's what's happening in sports. I'm Daniela Bruce.
Thank you for that, Daniela. Teeth, thorns, claws, and horns was the theme of this year's Darwin Discovery Day celebration at the Michigan State University Museum. This is the 11th year for the Darwin Discovery Day, the largest public science program put on by the museum. The event is planned year-round, and this year's 3 floors of exhibits include a look at dinosaur fossils and bones, some tree planting, and finally, a chance to interact with some creepy collies, including a Mexican red-knee tarantula.
The exhibits are run by MSU grad students as well as museum staff and volunteers. Those who attended were handed a passport, which could be filled with stickers at each station.
We have specialists that might identify a rock or a fossil or a bone or a tooth. So that's always a special part of this, that you just never know what might walk through the door.
Organizers saw Darwin Discovery Day is a great opportunity to get the community into the museum, as well as a chance for the museum to connect with other departments around campus. That's our show for tonight. We leave now with sounds from students performing at the Voicing Poetry event.
Good night.
Good night.